Today on CityCast Houston. After this latest natural disaster, a lot of Houstonians are wondering, when are our politicians and leaders going to step up for recovery and the next storm? Plus, we're honoring those who lost their lives in the deadly hurricane. And we're sharing why, despite everything, we still love this city as we head into 713-day weekend. Joining me are dynamic media personality Antre'chelle Nova and Pulitzer Prize finalist Evan Mintz to talk about the news. It's Friday, July 12th. I'm Raheel Ramzanali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Oh my God, it's Friday. Feels like the longest week ever, and I know it's still really hard out there for a lot of Houstonians, but here we are. It is a Friday. Evan, Antre'chelle, how's everybody doing? How did y'all do after Hurricane Beryl ripped through the city?
Listen, I am just so happy to be in this space by myself, because if I had to be around my 5-year-old and my husband for one more second, I was going to lose it. But I'm so happy to be on the other side of Beryl.
Yep, you are working from your office, which is nice. You get a change of scenery. You get a little break from the kid and from your husband, which is nice. Evan, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I prepared for the worst. I prepared for a power outage. So when we lost it Monday morning, we were doing okay. What drove me nuts was losing our power again on Tuesday for no reason.
Oh, no.
I wasn't prepared for that. I had opened the fridge. Things were operating. Things weren't charged. And then we lost our power. So I'm pretty pissed off about that. But we're through it. We're done. And now I just have to get rid of the trees.
Evan, it sounds like you're frustrated, which you should be, and millions of other Houstonians are as well. So let's just jump into this. I think everybody knows the biggest story. It's the recovery after Hurricane Beryl. Evan, you kick us off because there's a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah. And I think something that's really big about all this recovery is just how long it took for Texas to request a federal disaster declaration. As Jeremy Wallace at the Houston Chronicle reported, the governor has historically requested these declarations before the storms made landfall. That's what Abbott did in Harvey, and he did in Hurricane Hannah. It's what Perry did with Ike. But this year, President Biden actually reached out to the Houston Chronicle and told them he had to scramble to get in contact with Abbott after the storm had already made landfall. Now, where was the governor? You've heard of Cancun cruise. Now we've got Abbott in Asia. He was on a trade junket visiting Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, and with apologies to the Doobie Brothers, the governor don't seem to care. He just keeps on looking to the east. Now, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick was left in charge, and his office said they needed to see the damage before making a request, but that's never how it actually worked. And this delay meant that FEMA's emergency supplies, like meals and clean water, were left sitting unused, ready to distribute, waiting for the state's request. Meanwhile, we're drinking bottled water, we're looking at that Whataburger outage map, and Abbott's on a tour of the Toyota Museum.
Evan, is there something more sinister happening here, right? Or is it just inexperience by Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, where he didn't know that, hey, you could actually just declare this before the storm arrives? Or is it, hey, we just don't like Houston? Like, what is happening here? Why did this take so long? Because the storm pushed through the city around 1 p.m., 2 p.m. on Monday. So it was gone. And the declaration was made Tuesday. So a full day later. Was something sinister happening here?
I try not to attribute to malice that can be explained by ignorance. But the fact of the matter is that, say, Lena Hidalgo was on vacation and she canceled it to come back early to Houston. Greg Abbott could have canceled his trip. He could have come back here and been in charge, but he didn't do that. And I don't know what Dan Patrick's issues were, whether he knew how you're supposed to do it. But it's just maddening to see the state not treat Houston, not treat a hurricane as a priority. They freak out about things that make headlines on cable news. They don't freak out about the well-being of millions of Houstonians.
You think Governor Abbott would have returned if school vouchers were up for vote right now?
Exactly.
Listen, It's just madness. But guess what? We got to clean it up, okay? They mess up, we clean up, and we got to figure out what are we going to do with the debris that's left in Houston. It is madness around the city when it comes to the things that Beryl left behind. Now, the city of Houston announced a collection of garbage and heavy tree waste that begins on Tuesday. Now, they also said that all 6 neighborhood depositories will reopen, but all other solid waste management facilities will remain closed. Now, due to cleanup, they decided to suspend recycling and yard waste services for the remainder of the week, but it will resume on the next regularly scheduled collection day. Now, the city of Sugar Land has already started their pickup, and they're asking residents to separate debris into the following piles: green waste in bags, vegetative debris, tree stumps, tree branches, separate that, and construction demolition debris. Katy already has a plan. Galveston has a plan. The crisis cleanup has begun, and they are asking people who need help to remove the debris, the fallen trees, other services, tarping roofs, local relief organizations, and community groups to stand by to assist free of charge. It's time to clean up.
We're still cleaning up from the derecho.
I
Yeah.
know.
We haven't even got a chance to clean that up. I mean, just 2 weeks ago when I was driving the city, you could still see downed trees just sitting in intersections or on the medians. And yeah, like we haven't even cleaned up from that. And here comes Hurricane Beryl. And it's going to take a while, right? Like the Houston Strong stuff is great. Neighbors are helping each other out and they're going out with their chainsaws, but not everybody has that luxury. Somebody might not know anybody. Here's a good example. Emma Balter, who is the editor-in-chief at Houstonian magazine, she had a tree fall in her yard and she doesn't know what to do with it. She called the proper authorities and they said it could be up to 50 days. We don't know. Like,
Yeah.
but look, again, the whole city was hit. So it's going to take time for debris. It's going to take time for trees getting cleaned up. But yeah, what do we do, right? Like if you don't have somebody who has a chainsaw, right?
Right.
I'm not heading over there with my little hand chainsaw. Like I'm not going to do anything. So yeah, what do? You just wait.
But my
Yeah.
question to you guys is like, do y'all think we undershot this? Like, this is a category 1 that didn't feel like, I mean, so was it like a category 1 that feels like a category 5? You know, I think we kind of undershot this, and I think it was, we were underprepared. Evan, the first thing Evan said was, I was prepared, right? I wasn't prepared, and I don't think the city was prepared either. And everybody keeps saying Houston just ain't ready for a big hurricane.
You know, we're prepared for rain. We get a lot of floods, even like non-hurricane floods. We're not ready for wind. And there was some serious wind in this, some category 1 wind, and we weren't prepared for that. And the sort of destruction that comes from that is not something that Houston has built for. You know, you don't hear folks freaking out about how we need to improve the building standards to deal with wind. You hear them freaking out, particularly after Harvey, over improving building standards for floodwaters.
But did y'all see that it was an 84 miles per hour wind at Hybee Airport? OMG, that is
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, it got bad. The storm had a lot of power, and I don't think the category of the storm matters. Even tropical storms can bring damage, right? So we have seen that from meteorologists. That is something to bring up. Let's talk about CenterPoint real quickly because this has been the big topic of the week. It has taken forever for CenterPoint to get people back online. I know they brought back almost 1 million people back online by Wednesday evening. That was their big target, that we want to get at least 1 million people back online, which is great, but they have released a new timeline, and now they are expected to restore an additional 400,000 customers by the end of today, an additional 350,000 restored by the end of Sunday, which leaves almost another 400,000 that would have to wait until next week. The response by CenterPoint, oh man, if it's not Mayor Whitmire, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, even Governor Abbott criticizing them, the citizens are criticizing CenterPoint now. And it has gotten to a point where there has to be an investigation into this. I said this on Thursday's episode. We need to figure out where they dropped the ball, how they dropped the ball this badly, because other states deal with powerful hurricanes. Let's For example, let's use Florida, right? Because the Florida Public Service Commission forced its utilities to adopt several measures to improve the grid, including replacing wooden transmission poles with sturdier concrete ones, proactive tree trimming, undergrounding some power lines. When Hurricane Ian, a Category 4 storm, hit the state in 2022, more than 2.1 million people lost power. Yet within 24 hours, roughly 2/3 of the customers got it back. Within 8 days, except for some parts of the state where the grid had to be rebuilt, every customer had their lights on. So are we on track for that? It doesn't seem like it. It's going to be a long process here, and CenterPoint really has to improve.
Absolutely. And I see now why uh, one of the graffiti artists put Center Pointless under one of our bridges, which I thought was classic. And I hope that art stays up forever and it causes them to get their mind right, because that's what it is. It's just like, y'all, what did y'all do? What were you doing? What were you doing? And I will never understand how you had one job. Why you couldn't get these lights back on?
I heard a spokesperson talking to Jeremy Rogowski of KHOU Channel 11 that their crews were not staged in the city of Houston. They were staged outside of the city. And then when they did arrive, they had to get this training done before they could actually go out into the field. When you knew the hurricane was going to impact the city in some way, right? We didn't know it was going to be this bad. I understand. A lot of people have talked about that. If you knew it was going to impact the city, why weren't they staged in the city on Sunday when everyone was hunkered down and they could have done this training online? They could have done this training in person somewhere. And when the hurricane passed through, when it was safe enough, Monday, 1 p.m., why weren't they out working instead of being trained?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But that's too much like right. That sounds great until it's time to get going. Somebody may have had that idea. Somebody said, nah, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Evan, you got to take that because I don't even know what else to say.
I think just the problem with CenterPoint is they're a monopoly. There's no accountability for them. They're uncommunicative. They're unprepared. They're unreliable. This is the biggest power outage the Houston region has ever seen. And it was just a Category 1, and CenterPoint was not ready for it. And so Mayor Whitmire is saying they need to do a better job. Greg Abbott, Dan Patrick, Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia, they're all saying they want to hold CenterPoint accountable for their failure in this moment. But the next legislative session is months away. And CenterPoint has this bad habit of getting what they want during legislative sessions. It's something that's overlooked is the fact that a CenterPoint vice president of utility infrastructure planning, Elizabeth Gonzalez Brock, was appointed to chair the Metro board. Isn't that weird?
That is very
honestly,
weird.
CenterPoint doesn't do a good job at things. Why are we rewarding them with these plum political appointments? If you want to hold CenterPoint accountable now, with something the city has actual power over, maybe we should be asking why we're putting a CenterPoint executive in charge of Metro, because that's something that should not go overlooked.
Absolutely. Next thing we're going to have is they're not going to be able to get any buses anywhere. Like, come on. Right. They were in a training. Come on. Quit playing. But guys, now that everybody is done with they're over CenterPoint, they're over being without light, they're over staying at home, cooped up inside, because all the local restaurants, if you're open, you got clients, baby, because everybody's ready to get out of their house. I know my husband is a wonderful chef. He cooks some great food. He is a barbecue pit master, but I don't want nothing else off that barbecue pit. You understand me? And so,
well, send some our way. I'll take some barbecue right now.
Good. I will bring it to you. But guys, these people are not alone. A lot of local restaurants, they are now open and they are really going hand over fist, serving the people who just want to relax and get out of the way. They're saying that local restaurants, of course, they had their own obstacles, but those that were able to open, they are up and they have a rush of businesses. Now, as Beryl made his way to Monday, Nasir's phone started ringing every 5 to 10 minutes as people want to know if his restaurant was open. The name of his restaurant is called Craft Pitas, and he has 2 locations, and that includes a storefront and a few doors down from Los Tios. Now, if you want some good, authentic Mexican food, you could definitely go there. They're on Fountain View in Briar Grove if you're in that area. But there are plenty of local food restaurants. get there. There are a lot of food trucks that are
Mhm.
up and out. Get there. They're happy to serve you. They're prepared, and they really need to get some away of their food. If you see Layton's in Third Ward, they're giving away food. There's so many restaurants that are up and open. If you have service, if you don't, if you have service, you can see they're open on social media. If you don't, just get there and get you somewhere, something to eat.
Yeah, you're talking about Chef Raheel Nasser, who has been on the podcast before talking about craft pita. So yeah, he's been busy. There have been a lot of people hitting the streets. And that's the other thing. Did people forget how to drive? Because I know Houstonians, we're not good drivers, but oh my gosh, when we see a 4-way intersection with no traffic lights, it turns into danger. And that's another point I want to bring up. Look, I get it. The power outages are impacting us and it is an inconvenience. It's more than that, honestly. It sucks, right? But the fact that CenterPoint hasn't even gotten power back up on major intersections is a disaster. And I know officials are telling us to stay home, but with so many needing to go to a friend or family member's house, people are driving and these major intersections are without traffic lights. How CenterPoint hasn't restored those key areas is another big disaster. And also, Xfinity, they're saying that, look, we are facing outages as well. And without the internet being connected to the rest of the city, knowing what's happening, it is frustrating. And they're saying their current service outages are tied to, guess what? No power in the businesses or homes. So another CenterPoint thing. So it's just, when you're out there on the roads, it is scary. These traffic lights aren't on. So please be very careful. I've had to drive a few times, and let me tell you, people are blowing through these intersections with no traffic lights on. That's another thing to watch out for.
And not just watch out for, I think there needs to be a training for what to do. What to do if there is no lights. Now, that's a training that CenterPoint can add, and they can put it on social media. Matter of fact, I'll do it. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it, CenterPoint guys. You just send me a check, and I will do a here's what to do if the lights are out in your area. This is how you do a 4-way stop sign, because it's getting ridiculous. And lights are still out even today, you guys, and people still don't know what to do at a 4-way stop.
No, people are driving like they hate Houston. And really,
That's
it's what it is.
Yes.
You know, this is supposed to be one of those moments where we're all in it together and all getting out there. Like, if you don't have a chainsaw, if you don't have a generator, if you don't have a kitchen cook for people, the least you can do is just drive friendly and drive safely. And people are out there driving like they hate Houston.
Yeah.
And so I've got to say, like, if you don't like it, get out of here. Come on, just like drive it with a little bit of kindness to your neighbors.
Not right now, Evan. It is hot. We're without power. We're done with this. We are done. We're driving with some anger. I've seen so many news stations and media outlets just put up a graphic on what to do when there are no traffic lights. And we'll link some of those in our show notes.
Want to know one of my favorite sounds? Here it is. That's the sound I hear when I'm learning Spanish with Babbel. And if you want to learn a new language this year, I guarantee it'll be one of your favorite sounds too. I'm David Plotz. I'm the CEO of CityCast, and I've been doing Babbel for a few weeks, and it's been so much fun. This week, I've been learning lots of food vocabulary and how to order in a restaurant. This is one of the things I love about Babbel, is that it's about learning the language so that you can use it. As Babbel says, it's designed by real people for real conversation. So it's all based on real life situations. And these restaurant lessons are awesome. When I went to Mexico City last year with my girlfriend, I was mute. I was a mute. But next time, I'm going to be ordering the sopes and las salsas picantes. Babbel has over 16 million subscriptions sold, plus all of Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee. Here's a special limited-time deal for CityCast listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Houston's original neighborhood downtown is for everyone, and it's poppin'. It's our open-hearted home for our biggest celebrations and our treasured hidden gems. From the world-class theater district to incredible green spaces like Discovery Green, downtown is the place to be. In fact, more people visited downtown Houston last year than the entire population of Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, and San Antonio combined. There's no better time to live downtown than now. From starter apartments to luxury lofts, everyone can take advantage of the arts, business, culture, entertainment, food, and recreation. Now, you might think of downtown as only the heartbeat of Houston's regional economy, which it is, but there's so much more to it, including free events throughout the week with Downtown Houston Plus. From the summer trivia nights at Trebley Park to 713 Day at Market Square Park on July 13th, you can find something to do and eat and watch in downtown Houston. Learn more at downtownhouston.org. Downtown Houston, get energized and revived. Okay, one last thing I want to bring up. I know this week has been hard and it has been one of those weeks we'll remember forever, but I also want to remember those who were lost due to Hurricane Beryl. At least 11 people have died, and this is purely my opinion and speculation. I think that number is going to go up because so many Houstonians are lacking power. It is hot out there and this heat is dangerous. But let's talk about some of the victims real quickly. Russell Richardson, a 50-year-old HPD information security officer, was caught in rising floodwaters on Houston Avenue when he was heading into work on Monday. Another man who hasn't been identified yet died when a tree fell into his living room while he was sitting on the couch. And then there's Maria Laredo, a beloved grandmother known for her handmade tortillas and silly jokes, passed away when a tree fell into her second-story bedroom. She lived with her son, Jose, and his wife, Haley, and would babysit her granddaughter and grandson so Jose and Haley could go to work. It's just that one was hard. I mean, every death is so tragic, and this doesn't even count the storm's impact on other countries, other places, as it worked its way up through the Caribbean. So we're thinking about all the victims that were lost, and also we're thinking about all the people who don't have the luxury of going and buying extra groceries, right? But this storm is disastrous. There are people out there that can't go back and just refill the fridge without it being a huge economic impact, or go buy a generator or an extra fan, or people who get paid by the day who are losing out on wages because businesses are closed. You know, there is a divide here between the have and have nots after storms, and this just amplifies it.
Now, I really think for the first time, I'm seeing people reach their limits on what they can endure. They're saying, I can't be Houston strong anymore. I can't put up with living like this, with losing power, with losing food, or just having to deal with this as a regular part of life. And the upside of Houston is that it's a place where it's reasonably easy to live. Cost of living is low, housing is affordable, you can get around if you've got a car. But when you have to deal with stuff like this, it just undermines everything. I've got a new coworker who moved here from DC, never lived in Texas before. And she's just asking me, like, is this normal? Is this regular? And I don't know how to answer, because on one hand, no, like, this shouldn't be normal. But the past couple storms we've had just end up being like this, that we are not ready to deal with this stuff. The state has not cared about us. The city has not had the ability to care about us. The county hasn't done it. Like, where are the folks stepping up in the public sector rather than putting the burden on individuals and their neighbors to take care of everything?
One last thought, Evan. I want to talk about what will happen after the storm. Are we going to learn from this? Will changes be made? Because as Antre'chelle mentioned, as you mentioned, this was a Category 1 hurricane that made landfall, turned into a tropical storm when it was over the city, and the winds were powerful. I can't even imagine what would happen now if something more powerful hit the city. Will we be ready next time? Or think about this, B for Beryl. That's the second named storm. We still have an entire hurricane season left. So what are we going to do? Are we going to be ready? Is there going to be enough time? Is this a long-term solution? Infrastructure? I know I'm asking 1,000 questions, but those questions are there. What do we do now? Are we going to learn from this?
I mean, that's a really good question. I remember immediately after Harvey, there's the sense that you've got 1 year after a disaster to make any changes. Because after that, things start to fade, memories grow weary, and that sense of urgency disappears. Now, this wasn't a Harvey storm, but that's why it's so distressing. We should have been able to endure this pretty well. And we're going to have to wait between now and the next legislative session to make something happen. You know, it'd be pretty great is if Greg Abbott called a special session right now to say, we're going to deal with this. We're going to have some formal hearings. We're going to pass some new laws and regulations and make sure that whenever you put a power line in place, it can endure a storm, because we don't have that right now.
All right. Are y'all ready? I'm going to do a total 180 here. We've recapped this week, but lost in all of the week was that Saturday, tomorrow, it's 713 Day, the day we celebrate our city, our area code, 713, baby. Let's get positive here for a second and just talk about the city, right? Why we love it. What are we going to do to celebrate? I know, Antre'chelle, you and I are going to pour some lean out. We're going to do that, right? I don't know if Evan's going to pour some lean out. I don't know.
He ain't going to do no lean. I'm not going to do no lean. Look, I'm a mother now. I won't do the lean, but I will be on the south side holding it down.
So tell me, Antre'chelle, 713 Day, what does it mean to you?
So I will just give my love letter to Houston. And like I said before, it's from the south side of Houston, where Uncle Scarface was my neighbor and Lil Flip was my junior high through high school friend. Going to church with Bun B, screaming Free Pimp C and See the Pimp Free, to sharing a birthday every year with Slim Thug and sneaking into his section, pretending like I'm a part of the entourage, to remembering all the stories of everybody knew Beyonce. She went to HSPVA, to seeing Beyonce singing No, No, No at my high school and getting a sidebar meet and greet with Destiny's Child, to now the megastar that she is, and me taking my children by the Beyonce house and Beyonce live here, to all the things, that we can endure, to Lil Kiki being exactly who he is, a hood legend and staying true. That's my 713. That's how I represent Houston, because my Houston celebrities are still so close. Knowing that Yolanda Adams was a part of the Texas Southern University debate team, when I hold true, they went to my alma mater. Knowing that Michael Strahan was here, knowing that at any moment I could touch any of these celebrities to most people, but they're family to us because they all come from that 713.
Perfectly said. Evan, how are you celebrating?
I mean, I'm celebrating just by thinking about how Houston, in spite of everything, is a place that lets people thrive. You can look at major cities across the country, and they are struggling with housing affordability and losing their population. And Houston is a place that is made not just because of the booms, but because folks keep moving here during the busts. It is during that post-oil bust when Houston became the diverse, thriving city that we love today. And we live on this platform of genius from folks who made the Addicks and Barker dams and dug the Ship Channel and created the Harris County Flood Control District and paved the bayous and made economic investments like the Space Center. And I just hope that on 713 Day, we can think to ourselves, what are we going to do for the next generation? What are we going to do for the next century to make sure they're looking back and saying, well, thank goodness the people in that moment did the things that let Houston continue to thrive.
Amen to that, Evan. Amen to that. For me, 713 Days, all about reflecting as well, thinking about the great things that make the city what it is, even through tough times like this week. From our friendly neighbors to everyone who's just willing to help, to businesses going out of their way to help the community by offering free food, free resources. So for 713 Day, I'm going to be putting on, knocking pictures off the wall, driving around, supporting local businesses because they support us during these hard times. And there are a lot of 713 Day events that are up in the air right now. So I don't want to talk about all of them, but all you have to do is just Google 713 Day events in Houston. You'll find updated resources. And if there is a local business doing something for 713 Day, go support them, because it is a day where we can give back to them for giving back to us and supporting our community. It's been a tiring week, but maybe Saturday could be a day where we celebrate just a little bit. Maybe it's celebrating with a lot of people getting their power back as well.
You know what's the best thing about not only 713 Day, but Houston? Think at all the things that we went through this week. Nobody has a more beautiful love and hate relationship about Houston than a Houstonian.
Mm-hmm.
You see how bad we just talked about everything that went on and did how much admiration that all three of us had. That's what I love about Houston. They my family. They ain't perfect, but they perfect for me.
Perfect way to end it there. Antre'chelle, Evan, thank you so much.
Thank you. See ya.
Chat with y'all next time.
That was Antre'chelle Nova and Evan Mintz. All the stories we talked about are linked in our show notes. That will do it for this week here on CityCast Houston. This week, our producers were Carleon Jones, Francisco Kilgore, Anthony Luciani, and Natalie Rivera. Our newsletter editors were Brooke Lewis, Will Fulton, and Adrian Gonzalez. Our executive producer is Laura Isensee, and I'm your host, Raheel Ramzanali. Our music is by the band All the Kimonos. We'll be back on Monday with a look at how a neglected drainage project caused unnecessary flood damage for some Houstonians. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new. Center map is totally not the right place. You're good.